The first thing she noticed was the stillness, the unnatural, chilling kind that settled like a thick fog in the room. Anita's eyes snapped open, a shiver running down her spine as her gaze fell on him. The vampire sat in the corner, perfectly still, as though the shadows themselves had molded around him. Pale, almost translucent skin glimmered faintly under the moonlight slicing through the blinds. His eyes were impossible, a deep, molten red that seemed to pierce straight through her chest, measuring her heartbeats, her fear, her every secret. She froze, even her breathing felt loud in the tense silence, echoing off the walls of her small apartment. The hum of the refrigerator was the only other sound. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Yet the weight of his stare grounded her in a terrifying reality. His lips curled into a slow, deliberate smile, one that hinted at secrets older than the city itself. Anita's pulse thudded painfully in her throat. "W.H., who are you?" Her voice trembled despite her effort to sound steady. "I've been waiting," he said, the words silk and steel intertwined. His voice was low, hypnotic, a dark melody that slithered into her ears. Longer than you could imagine, her instinct screamed at her to run, but every fiber of her being froze, caught between fear and an inexplicable pull. Something about him was magnetic, terrifying, intoxicating. His gaze never wavered, and yet it wasn't angry, not even malicious. It was. Assessing, he rose slowly, his movements fluid, inhuman. A shadow stretched behind him, sharp and serpentine. Anita's breath caught as he stepped forward, and the moonlight traced the hard planes of his face. The angles were too perfect, too sharp, too deliberate for any human. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her body inching toward the edge of the couch. I live alone." "And yet you invited me," he countered, tilting his head, amused by her jittery demeanor. "Or perhaps you didn't notice." Anita's hands trembled. She tried to think, tried to form a plan, but her mind was scrambling. But before she could reach it, he moved faster than human perception allowed, standing just 2 feet away, looming like a predator. "I won't hurt you, yet," he said. The words sent a shiver of both relief and fear coursing through her. He crouched slightly, tilting his head like a cat studying its prey. The red of his eyes glimmered even darker. "But the night is young, and you seem fragile, delicate, tempting, fragile." Her voice cracked as adrenaline coursed through her. "I'm not," she cut herself off as he suddenly vanished from sight. The sudden emptiness in front of her made her stagger back. Then a cold whisper brushed her ear, sending goosebumps crawling up her spine. "You don't know what I can do." Her heart raced as she spun around, but he was nowhere to be seen. The room felt impossibly large, every shadow a potential hiding spot. Anita's thoughts raced. He couldn't be real. Vampires weren't real, not in her world. And yet the proof was tangible, too tangible. Then, from the corner of her eye, she caught the faintest glimmer reflection in the silver-framed mirror. His smile, slow, knowing, mocking. "Stop hiding," she demanded, though her voice betrayed her terror. "Show yourself." "Patience," he whispered from somewhere behind her, the air itself vibrating with the sound. "I enjoy the game." He spun again, but he was gone. Her hands grabbed at the air, at shadows, at the edges of furniture. Every nerve in her body screamed to flee, but her feet wouldn't obey. A sudden, chilling breeze swept across the room. Papers rustled, the curtains fluttered, and her hair whipped around her face. She realized, with a pulse-jumping dread, that the windows hadn't been opened. He was here, always here, watching, waiting. Anita's mind raced. How had he gotten in? There was no sign of forced entry, no broken lock, no shattered glass. She reached for her phone, fumbling with trembling fingers. But the screen remained stubbornly dark, dead. "You can't call for help," he murmured from directly behind her, his voice brushing against her neck, close enough for her to feel the cold brush of his skin. Her spine stiffened. The air around him was icy, yet there was a strange warmth radiating from somewhere deeper. His presence was suffocating and intoxicating at once. She stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the rug, and fell onto the floor. Panic clawed at her throat as he knelt in front of her, his red eyes locking onto hers. The distance between them was terrifyingly close. She could see the fine lines along his lips, the sharpness of his fangs just barely visible as he tilted his mouth in a cruel smile. "You're mine," he whispered, and it wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Anita scrambled backward, her hands scraping across the cold floor, her lungs burning for air. I don't belong to anyone, you will," he said simply, as if it were the most natural truth in the world. The lights flickered, plunging the room into near darkness. When they returned, he was gone again. Her eyes darted frantically across the room, but it was as if he had melted into the shadows themselves. And then she heard it, the softest, most deliberate step behind her. 1, 2, a pause. Another, closer, closer. She couldn't tell if it was human or something else. Her hands found the lamp finally, gripping it like a lifeline. A sudden gust blew through the window, startling her. The glass rattled, and she spun around, raising the lamp. He was there, standing on her balcony, staring at her with that unholy red gaze. The moonlight highlighted the curve of his cheekbones, the smoothness of his skin, and the faintest shimmer of veins beneath it. "I told you," he said, voice echoing, both near and impossibly far. "I've been waiting." Her blood ran cold. She realized she was trapped. No phone, no lock strong enough. No exit, nothing, just him and the night. And the promise of something she couldn't even name, something terrifying, something ancient. She backed away slowly, heart hammering. Her toes hit the edge of the balcony. Panic surged like fire. "Don't scream," he said softly, almost lovingly, stepping closer. His shadow spilled across the floor like liquid darkness. "Or it will make it worse for you." Anita's chest heaved. Every instinct screamed for survival, yet every glance at him rooted her to the spot. He was close now, closer than any human should ever be allowed. She could see the faint quiver of his throat as he swallowed, the predatory curl of his lips. Her mind raced, trying to think of anything to escape. And then she saw it, a thin strip of metal protruding from under the balcony railing. Could she, before she could act, a gust of wind slammed against the glass door behind her. She stumbled, and when she turned back, he was inside the room again. How impossible! "You're clever," he murmured, voice low and intoxicating. "But clever isn't enough tonight." A scream caught in her throat. He moved like a shadow, impossibly fast, closing the distance in the blink of an eye. His hand shot out, brushing a lock of hair from her face, cold, smooth, unstoppable. Her world narrowed to the sound of her own ragged breathing and the soft, almost musical cadence of his steps. And then, as he leaned closer, revealing the faintest glint of fangs, the power of the moment crashed over her like a wave. She realized she was utterly, completely trapped and that the night had only just begun. The last thing she saw before he disappeared again, leaving the room silent and trembling, was his smile. That impossible, predatory, magnetic smile. And Anita knew, with a terrifying clarity, that surviving this night might be far more than she was ready for. Anita's hands shook as she sank to the floor, her back pressed against the cold wall, her pulse raced like a drumbeat gone mad. The apartment was silent again to silent, and every shadow seemed to twitch, breathe, and shift. The vampire was gone, for now, but she could feel him. Every nerve in her body screamed his presence, like static crawling under her skin. Her mind spun. She couldn't call anyone. Phones dead, windows locked, doors unbreakable. She was alone with him. Her survival instincts kicked in, and she tried to think clearly, to rationalize, to make sense of the impossible. "He can't be real," she muttered under her breath. "None of this can be real." And yet, the lingering chill in the room, the faint scent of iron in the air, the shadows that seemed to stretch toward her, it was all real. Every instinct screamed that he was still there, watching, waiting. Suddenly, the room shifted, a soft creak, like a footstep on bare wood. Anita's head snapped toward the sound. Her breath hissed. He was back. Clever girl, he whispered, voice wrapping around her like a silken noose. I like that spark in you. It reminds me of the hunt. She swallowed hard. Hunt what? What do you mean? You'll find out, he said, stepping closer. His shadow pooled around him like ink in water, swallowing the edges of the room. Soon enough, Anita backed away, her fingers scraping the floor. Her eyes darted around. Anything could be a weapon. The lamp was shattered in her panic earlier. A heavy vase sat on the table. Maybe she could throw it. Distract him, escape, anything. You're thinking too much, he said, his voice calm, almost amused. Stop fighting your fear. Anita, it will only make the night more entertaining. Her stomach churned. You don't know my name. She snapped, her voice shaking more from adrenaline than anger. I do, he replied, stepping so close she could feel the brush of cold air from his breath. Names are important. They give weight to souls, and yours. Yours is worth learning, she swallowed. She tried to move, but her legs were frozen in a mixture of fear and disbelief. Her heart pounded against her ribs like a trapped bird. You don't understand, she whispered. You can't. You can't do this to me, oh. But I can, he said, the red in his eyes glowing faintly. He crouched just slightly, tilting his head as if savoring her fear like a fine wine. The question is, will you survive it? The words echoed in her mind, sharp and jagged. She couldn't deny the truth. Her survival depended on quick thinking, every nerve firing. And somehow she had to escape. Somehow, Anita's eyes scanned the room again. The balcony door. If she could just reach it, she could jump. Risky, dangerous, maybe fatal, but anything was better than staying here. Her hands scrambled for the handle, fingers trembling. A shadow moved behind her, going somewhere. She spun around, heart hammering. He was leaning against the wall, impossibly close, eyes glinting like coals in the dark. His smile, that predatory, magnetic smile, made her knees weak. I just need air, she stammered. I can't stay here with you. And yet, here you are, he said, stepping closer. The floorboards creaked under his movement, but somehow his steps made no sound at all. You can't escape what's coming, Anita. The night has already chosen you. Adrenaline surged. She lunged for the balcony. The door was locked, stubborn, as if mocking her efforts. Instead, he simply observed, like a predator letting its prey tire itself out. Why aren't you stopping me? She demanded, her voice cracking. Because, he said softly, almost kindly, I want to see how you fight. How far you'll go before you break. Her stomach churned. Every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to survive. And yet, his words, they gnawed at her, impossible and intoxicating. She looked around desperately. Her eyes landed on the fire escape ladder just outside the balcony. If she could reach it, maybe, just maybe. Then he was there, in front of her, too fast to be real. Blocking her path, looming like a shadow that had taken human form. You can try, he whispered, red eyes glowing brighter, but you cannot hide from me. Her mind raced. She needed a plan, anything. And then she remembered the candle she'd lit earlier that night, now half burned. A flicker of hope, maybe fire would work. She grabbed the candle, shaking hands, lifting it like a weapon. Back off, she shouted, voice stronger than she felt. He tilted his head, amused. Is that fear or courage? Both. She snapped, shaking with panic. She lit the candle's flame, waving it in his direction. The light danced across his face, highlighting the pale, sharp features, the impossibly red eyes, the faint shimmer of veins beneath the skin. He didn't flinch, didn't even step back. Instead, he leaned closer, curiosity glinting in his eyes. Impressive, he murmured, but fire cannot save you tonight. Her chest heaved. Her mind was a whirlwind, fight or flight. She couldn't let him corner her, not like this. Then she did something impulsive. She lunged sideways, swinging the candle. The flame wavered, barely grazing his shoulder. He let out a soft, amused chuckle. "Bold," he said, red eyes glinting with interest. Anita scrambled backward, looking for another escape. Her eyes landed on the kitchen knife, dull but heavy. She grabbed it, pressing it tightly against her chest. Her fingers burned, her palms slick with sweat, but she felt a surge of control, a fleeting sense of power. He stepped closer, tilting his head. Desperate, he murmured, "I like that. Stay away from me," she shouted. He didn't. Step by step, he closed the distance. His movements were fluid, like water, impossibly fast. Anita's heart hammered so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the room. She looked up to see him vanish again, only to reappear behind the kitchen counter, blocking her exit. She was trapped, completely trapped. "You're running out of options," he said, voice low, mesmerizing, terrifying. "And I am patient." Anita's mind raced. If she could just one more chance. But he was already there, close enough that she could feel the icy brush of his skin against hers. And then, a sound, a sudden, sharp crash from the balcony. Someone or something was outside. A car door slammed, footsteps, heavy, urgent. He froze, just for a fraction of a second. The red in his eyes flickered. Who's there?" Anita whispered, hope and fear twisting in her stomach. The footsteps stopped. The door rattled. And then, her voice came from the hallway outside. "Anita, are you okay?" He didn't respond. He simply moved, almost gracefully, toward the shadows, his eyes glinting, unreadable. Anita's chest heaved. Could someone be here? Could someone actually save her? But before she could move, he was gone. Just as suddenly as he appeared, the apartment was silent once again. The only sound was her own ragged breathing. Then the whisper came, chilling her to the core. "I'm not done with you." And Anita realized, with a sinking heart, that the night had only just begun and survival would not come easily. Anita woke to darkness, the kind that pressed against her skin like a living thing. Her body ached from the struggle of the night before, muscles stiff, heart still racing from the fear that had become almost a constant pulse. She couldn't remember exactly how she ended up on the floor of her apartment, sprawled among the remnants of overturned furniture and shattered glass, but one thing was clear: he had been gone, or at least she thought he had been. A whisper of air brushed against her neck. She froze, heart hammering. Then the sound came, the faintest shift of movement, deliberate, controlled, impossibly precise. Red eyes glimmered in the darkness across the room, like molten coals beneath a pale mask. The vampire was there, watching, waiting. "You're awake," he said, voice low, smooth, almost a caress and a threat at the same time. "I wondered how long it would take before you realized hiding in the shadows does nothing." Anita pushed herself up, knees scraping against the cold floor. She gritted her teeth, fists clenched. "Why me? Why are you doing this?" He stepped closer, fluid, silent, and yet impossibly present. "Because, Anita, you are the first to notice. The first to truly see me, not just the shadow, the stories, the fear. That makes you special." Her stomach churned. "Special. You're a monster." He tilted his head, a slow, dangerous smile curving his lips. "I am what I am, but not all monsters are cruel. Some are misunderstood." His gaze softened for the briefest moment before the red fire returned. "And some test the limits of humanity. You are fascinating." Anita's pulse raced. She could feel the power emanating from him, an almost tangible energy that made her knees weak. And yet, she wouldn't let herself succumb, not fully. She scrambled backward, seeking anything she could use as leverage. Her eyes landed on the broken lamp, its jagged edge still sharp. She grabbed it, ready to defend herself. He didn't move to stop her. Instead, he crouched slightly, his face level with hers, studying her as if she were a puzzle to be solved. "You have spirit," he said softly, "but spirit alone won't save you." Anita's fingers burned around the lamp. "Then tell me what you want from me. Why are you here?" His expression darkened, and for the first time, she saw something almost human in his eyes: pain, regret, longing. "I've been bound to this city for centuries," he whispered, voice low and haunted. "I am cursed, trapped by the night. I cannot leave. And I have watched and waited for someone who could see beyond the fear, beyond the stories." "That's you," her breath hitched. You want me to help you." "I do not ask for your help," he said, shaking his head. "I ask for understanding, to be seen, to be remembered not as a monster, but as what I am. A creature of night, bound by rules older than your world." Anita's mind spun. Fear, fascination, horror, they collided in her chest, making it impossible to breathe normally. "And if I refuse?" "Then you survived the night by sheer luck," he said, voice dropping into a dark, playful tone. And perhaps not at all. The weight of his words made her falter. She could see now that his red eyes weren't just a predator, as they were centuries of longing, of loneliness. And yet, the danger was undeniable. "You can't just," she started, but he cut her off. "I can, I have, and I will. But tonight, you have a choice." A gust of wind rattled the windows. The shadows shifted, and suddenly the apartment felt alive, reacting to him, to the tension, to the fragile human standing before him. Anita's fist shook, sweat slicking her palms. "And what choice is that?" He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the icy brush of his skin. "You can fear me, or you can see me, understand me. Accept the night for what it is, and maybe, just maybe, survive it with your soul intact." Anita's chest heaved. Every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to escape. But another, stranger instinct, curiosity, courage, the flicker of connection made her pause. She swallowed hard. I want to understand." The red in his eyes flared, almost like fire. "Bold," he murmured. "I admire that. Few humans dare to say those words when their lives hang in the balance." For the first time he sat, his movements deliberate and almost ceremonial. "Listen carefully," he said. "I am bound to the night. I cannot enter the day. I cannot die, yet I am not alive as you are. I feed, yes, but I do not kill indiscriminately. I am ancient, yes, but not cruel without cause. My curse is loneliness, endless, eternal, and I seek only to be seen." Anita's eyes widened. The weight of centuries pressed down around her, the truth finally sinking in. She wasn't facing a mindless predator. She was facing a being trapped by his nature, his curse, and his loneliness. And yet, she knew understanding didn't erase the danger. "Then what happens now?" she asked, voice trembling. He leaned closer, lips near her ear, voice a whisper and a command all at once. "Now you survive, but tonight you learn, you see, and you realize. Monsters are not always what they seem." Her breath hitched. Fear and fascination danced together in her chest. "And if I don't survive?" He tilted his head, eyes glowing, the red of centuries in their depth. "Then the night will take care of that. But I think you will, because unlike others. You see me." Time seemed to stretch and bend. Shadows shifted. Wind whispered. And then, as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, bathing the apartment in pale gold, he moved closer, yet again, and touched her shoulder, not violently, but gently. "You've endured," he murmured. "You've faced the night and survived it. That in itself makes you extraordinary." Anita's legs gave out, and she sank to the floor, overwhelmed. Her heart still raced, but it was no longer pure terror. Relief mixed with awe, and a strange, unnameable bond formed between them. I don't understand all of this," she whispered, tears threatening to spill. But I survived, right? He smiled sharp, magnetic, yet strangely tender. You did, and now, you know, the night is not what it seems. And neither am I. The red in his eyes dimmed, shifting to a softer glow, almost like ember fading to ash. For the first time, he seemed human in a sense that didn't remove his otherworldly presence, but made it almost bearable, almost comforting. Anita swallowed hard, trembling, and looked into those ancient eyes. Will I see you again? He paused, then smiled, slow and deliberate, a predator and a protector all at once. If the night allows it, if you are ready, until then. Remember what you've seen, remember what you survived. Then, with a fluid movement that made her gasp, he stepped back, shadowing into the corner, and vanished entirely. The apartment felt emptier, quieter, but no longer suffocating. The danger lingered, yes, but so did the understanding. Anita sank to the floor, exhausted, yet alive. The first rays of sunlight struck her face, warm and golden. The night had tested her, pushed her to the brink, and yet she had endured. And now she understood. The truth was terrifying. The truth was beautiful. And for the first time, she realized that monsters were not always what they seemed, and sometimes survival meant more than just living through the night. A soft, almost imperceptible whisper brushed her ear, carried by the breeze through the cracked window. Until we meet again, her heart skipped a beat, and she shivered not from fear, but from the lingering, impossible memory of him. And in that moment, Anita knew her life had changed forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and join us for more thrilling tales.